Hello friends, I am Arpit and I am here with today's analysis. Today is 4th of March and we are going to deal with two very important topics which are in news. The first is India-EU relations. This is in news because a delegation from the European Commission visited India in the end of February. This delegation led to multiple, discussions. Key among them were the discussions on the bilateral trade and investment agreement, which is a free trade agreement which has to be established between India and European Union. Interestingly, the negotiations for this trade agreement started in 2007, but unfortunately, this has not been finalized yet. Well, 2025 end is now the expected date for its finalization. Let's see when it gets finalized. Is it needed? Yes, it is needed. So, this was the point of discussion. Second is the Biolumpi Vaxin. Now, in 2022, a disease among the cattle broke out in India. That disease was known as the lumpy skin disease, in which the virus which impacted the cattle led to lot of lesions on the skin of cattle. The milk productivity was impacted. It was contagious, so other cattle were also getting impacted due to it. However, it could not be transferred from cattle to humans. That was where humans were safe, but the cattle were not. And now we have developed a vaccine for it, and we have named it as the Biolumpi Vaxin. Just let me give you a context also that India is the largest producer of milk in the world. And India has the largest population of cattle in the world. So we needed, vaccines like these for the cattle. Then we will be dealing with MCQs based on these two topics and discuss the answers to the MCQs of 1st of March. Now starting with this India-EU relations, this is the news because a 22-member delegation from the European Commission visited India. Last year there were elections to the European Parliament. And this is the first foreign visit out of Europe of the European Commission, which is the executive body of the European Parliament. And they're coming to India means India's importance is rising for them. India is the world's fastest growing economy, no doubt about the fact. India is now the world's most populous country. India is the world's youngest country. And, countries in the European Union or the European Union as a whole definitely will be eyeing on India. So, this delegation was here. This delegation was led by the President, Ms. Ursula von der Leyen, and it was a 2-day visit. Here, she met with the Prime Minister and the President of India. She also talked about strengthening or deepening India-EU strategic partnership. Strategic partnership between India and EU was established in the year 2004. Now, I have a brief timeline over here on the board which talks about India-EU relations. So, in 2004, at the 5th India-EU summit, The Hague, start of strategic partnership happened over here. So, strategic partnership was established in 2004. 2006, at the 7th India-EU summit in Helsinki, endorsement of a future bilateral trade and investment agreement was proposed. And in 2007, the negotiations started on the bilateral trade and investment agreement. This bilateral trade and investment agreement is the name of the free trade agreement which has to be signed between these two entities, but it has not been able to sign it due to multiple factors. Multiple factors like EU is demanding India to reduce duties on agricultural products. Dairy is prominent among them. EU is demanding India to reduce tariffs on wines, European wines, and India is kind of apprehensive on that as well. And India is not open for amending its IPR laws also for EU, because EU has quite stringent IPR laws which India does not have. These are the major bones of contention why this agreement is not getting signed, but yes, we have to find a middle path, and both the countries in this particular meeting have agreed that they will be finalizing on this by the end of 2025. Then 2013, negotiations were paused. After 15 rounds of negotiation, talks between parties were paused for this bilateral trade and investment agreement. In 2022, again, it started. EU and India relaunch ambitious trade agenda. 2024, conclusion of 8th round of negotiations between India and EU, and it took place in Brussels. Now in 2025, this meeting, they have finalized that they will be adopting or launching it by the end of 2025. But let's see what happens when it happens. And whenever it will happen, definitely it will be a point of discussion in our daily videos. So this timeline you need to, keep in your head. Now, key highlights. So strengthening the India-EU strategic partnership which was established in 2004 between both these entities, and building on 20 years of cooperation and over 30 years of collaboration between India and European communities. So that was there, that we need to deepen it. Nothing I would say too much in that. Shared values and commitment to global peace and stability. So shared values like democracy, freedom of speech, and open market economies. Commitment to global peace and stability, yes, India has always been committed to this, and so has been European Union. But yes, there is a difference that European Union is openly supporting Ukraine. We are on the side of peace, as our Prime Minister says that India was never neutral in the war. India was always on the side of peace. And we are engaging with Russia. European Union is not engaging with Russia. This is one such difference. But yes, both the countries want a rules-based international order to be established. They emphasize the need for joint efforts to tackle global challenges, including climate change, governance of artificial intelligence, terrorism, and development finance. All these we want to be regulated. And European Union, the digital laws over there, artificial intelligence laws over there, they are very much advanced in that sense. So European Union has already, adopted artificial intelligence laws and all. Strengthening trade, technology, and economic cooperation. Obviously, that needs to be done, and that is why that bilateral trade and investment agreement is being negotiated. So both sides underscored the importance of cooperation in trade and de-risking supply chains. And as the entire world was suffering from the blocking of supply chains by China during and post-COVID era, so was European Union, and that is why they are looking to diversify their supply chains. So that is what they are saying. De-risking supply chain means India-EU Trade and Technology Council established to promote cooperation between India and EU on issues like trade, technology, and green transition. This was basically one of the highlights. The negotiations on the free trade agreement, definitely that happened, where we need to remove or lower the trade barriers, both of us, and enhancing market access to boost India-EU trade relations. Let me tell you one more impediment over here in this trade agreement now, which has to be signed. Last year, European Union implemented the carbon border tax. Now, what is carbon border tax? EU says the products which we are importing from anywhere in the world, for making those products in that part of the world where those products have been made, how much emissions were done. If the emissions were done beyond a certain limit, then we will be imposing carbon border tax, which is a kind of import duty on that particular product. Now, let's suppose European Union is importing cement from India. So cement is made in India, manufactured in India, and cement is a carbon intensive industry. So the amount of emissions done to make that cement, if it surpassed the limit set by EU and that cement is being exported to EU by India, then EU will impose that import duty on cement when it enters its borders, making the cement more expensive and less competitive. So this carbon border tax has also been, or it was also part of discussion, because free trade agreements or trade agreements are all about lowering the tariffs, not increasing the tariffs. Then collaboration on critical technologies like semiconductors. Leaders welcome progress made in implementing the Memorandum of Understanding on Semiconductors to strengthen supply chains. 6G technology, we have started talking about it. The EU 6G Smart Networks and Services Industry Association is there. in EU, and Bharat 6G alliance is there in India. So collaboration has been done, or MOU between these two has been signed, creating trusted telecommunications and resilient supply chains. Then AI and digital infrastructure, both sides pledge to deepen cooperation on trusted, sustainable AI, high performance computing and digital public infrastructure. So digital laws in EU are very much advanced. Our Information Technology Act has been inspired from the European Union law on digital protection and all. Now European Union has already passed this law for artificial intelligence, regulating artificial intelligence and all. We can take, inspiration from that as well. Green and sustainable development cooperation, if I talk about it. So clean energy is something in which European Union is excelling. Countries like Germany, they're excelling in it. And here we talked about solar energy, offshore wind, hydrogen, particularly green hydrogen. India EU Green Hydrogen Forum was welcomed, as well as the India EU Business Summit on offshore wind energy. Sustainable urban mobility, smart cities and disaster management as areas for enhanced collaboration. Then India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor, which was announced by India in the G20 summit when it hosted in 2023. It was talked about because when it was announced, after that the conflict in Israel-Palestine started, that region, due to which IMEC was on the back burner. But now again IMEC is into picture because the conflict has largely been settled. It is going to be a multimodal connectivity corridor which will connect India with Europe via West Asia like UAE, Saudi Arabia, Israel, and from there Mediterranean Sea, and then it will enter Italy, Spain and all. That is going to be a game changer because the reliability on the Suez Canal will reduce. So that was also a point of discussion. Then people to people ties and migration, a lot of Indian diaspora is staying over there. So yes, people to people ties had to be discussed, particularly in areas like higher education, research, sports and culture. Leaders agreed to promote legal, safe and orderly migration. Illegal migration obviously should not be promoted. International Solar Alliance and Biofuels Cooperation. So International Solar Alliance is an international body which was proposed by India, formed in 2015 in the Paris summit. Again, co-founders India and Paris, headquartered in India, and it became the first international body to be headquartered in India. Apart from it, this alliance aims to make availability of technology and finance for the countries which are their members of International Solar Alliance. Earlier, there was a condition kept by India that only the countries which are completely or partially in the tropics can be part of International Solar Alliance. But when its first assembly happened in 2017, this was amended and said that these countries which are completely or partially in tropics definitely can be members. Another criteria kept was that if any country outside of the tropics want to become the members of International Solar Alliance, then that country should mandatorily be a member of United Nations, a full-time member of United Nations. So that is where European countries come into picture. So yes, this was there. Then Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, another, I would say, multilateral organization which was announced by India, headquartered in New Delhi. It is a knowledge hub for providing knowledge or sharing best practices about how to make infrastructure disaster resilient. These initiatives aim to accelerate transition to clean energy and promote disaster resilience. Defense and security cooperation, if I talk about it, the importance of defense cooperation is there, including joint military exercises and collaboration between the Indian Navy and EU maritime security entities. India expressed interest in joining projects under EU Permanent Structured Cooperation, PESCO it is called as, and engaging in negotiations for Security of Information Agreement, SOIA. And we also underscored the need for collaboration in counter-terrorism efforts, cross-border terrorism and terrorism financing. Obviously, this is one such common point where both the countries are at the receiving end, or both the entities are at the receiving end. Consider EU as a country, if I inflow say it as a country. Now, commitment to free, open and peaceful Indo-Pacific. Indo-Pacific is one such region which is very much important nowadays because around 80% of the global trade passes through the Indo-Pacific. So, This highlights its importance in itself, and trade of European Union also passes through it. And the main, I would say, contention over here in Indo-Pacific is that domination of China, which is ruining things over there. So, building a free from domination of anyone, open for trade for all, peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific based on international law and sovereignty. India welcomed EU's joining of the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, IPOI. This is a multilateral organization which we discussed the other day as well. Means I think last month we discussed it, which promotes marine conservation and regional cooperation. And the lead is also committed to exploring trilateral cooperation, including Africa and the Indo-Pacific region. Then global and regional issues. War in Ukraine definitely was discussed because Europe or European Union is a key stakeholder in that war. Then Middle East peace, that was also discussed, but yes, that needs to be maintained because both India and EU are impacted due to these geopolitical tensions which have been there since the past 2 to 3 years in the world. Now, concrete steps taken by both the sides, free trade agreement negotiations, that was the main thing that had to be done because 2007 it started, 2013 it was stalled, then 2022 again it started. Now it is going on, and it is said that by 2025 end we will be finalizing it. Defense cooperation, hold focus on the defense industry policy to explore new initiatives and collaboration opportunities, and India would be now looking to export to European Union countries. So since India's military exports or defense exports are increasing now. IMEC progress, organize a review meeting to assess the progress of India Middle East Europe Economic Corridor periodically, that was decided. Maritime security, strengthen maritime domain awareness and interoperability for better security cooperation. So we do a naval exercise also, and that naval exercise we started in 2023. Semiconductor and technology cooperation, this was discussed as part of critical technology discussion. Though there is Trade and Technology Council to focus on semiconductor and critical technologies. Green energy cooperation, where green hydrogen, solar, offshore wind all were discussed. Indo-Pacific cooperation, where the Indo-Pacific vision of establishing an open, free, peaceful and prosperous Indo-Pacific, that was discussed. Disaster management, strengthen cooperation on disaster preparedness, response coordination and technical engagement for resilient, and India has developed state-of-the-art facilities with respect to early warning systems, which are very much crucial or very much part of the disaster management. So these were all the things which were part of discussion. But yes, since we are doing it, and we should also know the historical background of the relationship between India and EU. That is going to give you a complete picture of India-EU relations, and you can refer to this whenever you want to study about India-EU relations. So diplomatic relations. First of all, let me tell you that European Union was established in the year 1992 by the Treaty of Maastricht. Before that, there was this European Economic Community, EEC. EEC can be considered as a predecessor of European Union. And with EEC in 1962, India established diplomatic relations with European Economic Community, the precursor to 1993, now EU has been established. 1992 Treaty of Maastricht was signed. The joint political statement marked a significant step forward. 1994, the cooperation agreement was signed, laying the foundation for further strengthening ties between India and the European Union. Strategic partnership, 2004 it was signed. 15 summits have been held between India and the EU since the turn of millennium, showcasing the evolving relationship between the two countries. And this happens, on a periodic basis. The partnership has been upgraded progressively, reflecting the growing significance of the relationship. This time we were talking about deepening the already established strategic partnership. Talking about economic relations, so when economic relations are talked about, be very clear, there are two sub-components. One is trade and another one is investment. So when I talk about trade with EU, so we have, substantial trade. If I talk about bilateral trade in goods, FY24, so $135 billion. And if I talk about merchandise, goods means India's exports to EU $76 billion, imports $59 billion. So total trade in goods is $135 billion. India has a trade surplus. Trade in services, total trade in services is $53 billion. Here also India has a surplus, $30 billion India's service exports, $23 billion service imports from EU. So overall India has a trade surplus. Overall trade between India and EU stands at $188 billion. EU is one of the biggest trade partners of India. The second segment in economic relation is investment. The foreign direct investment which has come from EU to India from April 2000 till September 2024 is $117.4 billion, and India's FDI outflow to European Union is $40.04 billion. Here we have a deficit, investment deficit, but yes, that is good for us. More investment is coming into India as compared to going out of India in EU. Talking about technological cooperation, so yes, science and technology cooperation we have established, and it was agreement signed in 2007. Key technology initiatives like semiconductor research and development, MOU was signed in November 2023, and now we are wanting to take it further beyond research and development, manufacturing and all. Also we are discussing artificial intelligence. Both parties participated in the Global AI Summit in New Delhi 2023 to further explore AI cooperation. High performance computing and intent of cooperation was signed in November 2022 to advance cooperation in this critical technology. Technology development focus. Partnership aims to counter China's dominance in critical technologies like semiconductor and AI, with a focus on securing technological supply chains and boosting innovation. Green energy solutions. India-EU green hydrogen cooperation. This was there November 2024. EU played a key role in the International Conference on Green Hydrogen held in Delhi, September 2024, and according to the India's National Green Hydrogen Policy, we want to become a global hub of green hydrogen by 2030. And yes, we need partnerships and collaborations with countries like America and EU. So this is what you need to understand. European Investment Bank committed 1 billion euros to support India's green hydrogen projects. The green hydrogen ecosystem is being developed in India, and by 2030, as I told you, we need to become a global hub for that. People to people ties, yes, a significant amount of Indian diaspora is staying over there, and people to people ties does become very important. So Indian diaspora is there, and it is, there has been a significant growth. Students, researchers, skilled professionals, all are found over there. The Erasmus scholarships. Over 6,000 scholarships have been awarded to Indian students over the past 20 years, making Indian students among top recipients of these scholarships. Marie Sklodowska-Curie Actions. 2,700 Indian researchers have been funded under the EU's Horizon Europe program since 2014, enhancing India-EU collaboration in research and innovation. EU Blue Cards. 20% of all EU blue cards issued went to Indian professionals, reflecting India's growing role in EU labour market. It is given to working professionals who are working in the European Union region. Defence cooperation, the maritime security. The focus is on enhancing security cooperation in Indo-Pacific region with particular attention to countering piracy. Definitely, that is very much important, a crucial region. First joint naval exercise, this happened in Gulf of Guinea in October 2023, and the main aim was countering terrorism, piracy and natural disaster management. Talking about space cooperation, ISRO and the European Space Agency have collaborated on significant missions like PSLV launch for Proba 3 mission in December 2024. We launched it successfully. Cooperation on the Chandrayaan 3 and Aditya L1 missions, some components and all, technical expertise for that were sought assistance from European Space Agency. A memorandum of understanding signed for cooperation on India's Gaganyaan human space flight mission, marking a new chapter in space diplomacy. So one of the members from this delegation was praising India's Gaganyaan mission, which has expected to be launched this year. It was expected to be launched in 2024, but it has been delayed to 2025. It is going to be the first manned mission of India to space. 3 astronauts will be traveling to the low Earth orbit. So this is what all we need to know about India-EU relations. Very much important topic for our GS2, and it is becoming important in this scenario of the Russia-Ukraine war, especially America withdrawing itself or withdrawing support to Ukraine and European leaders coming in support of Ukraine. So we can see a visible gap between America and Europe now, and in this scenario, engagement with countries like India is important. On the other hand, India is also wanting to increase its collaboration with or entities like EU, because India is also facing some, I would say, tariff hiccups with USA, where USA is looking to increase tariff on Indian exports. Now India should be looking to diversify its exports, and for that matter, signing the bilateral trade and investment agreement with the European Union becomes important. So from all these viewpoints, you connect the dots and develop a holistic understanding about it. This is where UPSC is going to ask questions from. So this is it with respect to India-EU. Now coming on to the second topic, that is the Biolumpi Vaxin. So this Biolumpi Vaxin is not for humans, it is for the cattle. So there was a disease outbreak in India that is called as the lumpy skin disease. It is a viral disease found among the cattle, and when this virus enters the cattle, the lesions on the body of cattle appear to be there like this. This is a cattle infected by the lumpy skin disease. Now the good news is that this virus stays among the cattle, is transmitted from cattle to cattle, but it is not transmitted to humans from cattle, even if we are consuming the milk of that cattle. That is very clear. But for this lumpy skin disease, the scientists in India have found out a vaccine, and that vaccine is known as Biolumpi Vaxin. So it is the world's first vaccine for lumpy skin disease in cattle and buffaloes. It was developed by BioVet, a group company of Bharat Biotech, and it has received approval from Central Drug Standards Control Organization, marking a significant advancement in healthcare in India. Definitely healthcare of the cattle in India. Now key features: it is a global first ever differentiating infected from vaccinated animals marker vaccine for lumpy skin disease. It represents a significant milestone in global veterinary medicine. DIVA technology allows differentiation, as the full form says, differentiating infected from vaccinated animals. Differentiation between infected and vaccinated animals. This helps in effective disease surveillance and control programs, ensuring that only infected animals are isolated while vaccinated ones are left freely to roam. High safety and efficacy. Vaccine has been rigorously tested for quality, safety and effectiveness to ensure its suitability for use in cattle and buffaloes. Single dose regimen. Single dose is there, like COVID vaccine was a double dose regimen. It is a single dose regimen, and per year to cattle buffaloes aged above 3 months can be given. Vaccine strain. Vaccine is developed using the lumpy skin disease virus Ranchi 2019 strain sourced from ICAR NRCE Hisar. The background of lumpy skin disease: it is a viral infection affecting cattle and buffaloes, primarily causing severe economic losses in the dairy and livestock industry. Economic losses, why? Because reduced milk production is there, infertility in livestock can also be experienced, and increased mortality in some cases, leading to severe economic losses for people possessing these cattle. Disease is caused by lumpy skin disease virus, which belongs to the Poxviridae family. How does it spread? It spreads through blood-sucking vectors. Now, if a cattle which is affected by lumpy skin disease, a vector, blood-sucking vector comes, like mosquito or some other tick or mite, then that same mite goes on to the other cattle, and then that blood-sucking vector will infect that virus over there in that cattle. This is one such way of spreading this virus, like ticks, mites, houseflies and mosquitoes. It can also be transmitted through contaminated water, fodder and feed. Now, if you go to any place where these cattle are there, so there is this water, I would say, body which is there having water in that, and these cattle are standing beside each other, and let's suppose one of the cattle has this disease and she is drinking water from that water body. Now virus can enter the water, water can get contaminated, and other cattle can also consume that. Same goes for feed. That is also a way of spreading this virus. Symptoms: visible lumps or nodules on the skin, fever, swelling and lesions are also some symptoms of this particular disease. Now, what is DIVA? DIVA vaccines are designed to differentiate between animals that have been naturally infected and those that have been vaccinated. So those who have been vaccinated, they will be left out to roam, but those who have been infected, they will be isolated, treated, and once treated, they will be vaccinated. And then a marker will be there on them that these cattle have been vaccinated, so they can be allowed to roam freely. Differentiation helps in preventing disease outbreaks while enabling efficient disease surveillance and eradication. Now, advantages of DIVA vaccine: identification of infected animals can be done easily, and monitoring vaccine efficacy can also be done very easily. So these are some benefits of it, but yes, disadvantages of DIVA vaccines: may not be as effective as traditional vaccines, potentially leading to incomplete protection. So effectiveness is bit questionable. So let's see how this DIVA vaccine for the lumpy skin disease works. Then special diagnostic tests are there. Special tests are required to distinguish between infected and vaccinated animals. We can distinguish, but special tests are required. That is the marker. These tests may not be as sensitive or quick as conventional tests. Complex development: developing DIVA vaccine is a challenging process due to the need for precise technology and techniques to differentiate infections. So yes, DIVA is differentiating infected with vaccinated animals is this technique which was adopted, but yes, it is complicated and efficiency of that is also a big question. Now, coming on to the MCQs. Consider the following statements and mark the correct one. First, India and EU established strategic partnership in 2004. Negotiations for a free trade agreement have been reinitiated in 2025 after they stalled in 2015. So, mark the correct one over here. Second, where was the first India-EU joint naval exercise hosted? Bay of Bengal, North Sea, Gulf of Guinea or Arabian Sea. Third, consider the following statements with respect to lumpy skin disease and mark the correct one. It is a viral disease, it is vaccine preventable. Only one, only two, both one and two, neither one nor two. Carefully answer this. Which of the following can be an impact of lumpy skin disease? Reduced milk production, infertility in livestock, increased mortality among livestock. Which of these can be an impact? Now the answers to MCQs are 1st of March. First question: from which country is India importing Tamal warship? That is simple, straightforward. We are importing it from Russia, and this is going to be the last warship India is importing. After that, indigenous development will happen. Consider the following statements with respect to National Commission for Indian Systems of Medicine and mark the correct one. NCISM is a statutory body. Yes. National Commission for Indian Systems of Medicine Act 2021 was passed, which established this body. So this statement is correct. All members of NCISM are appointed by the central government. Yes, there are 29 members and all of them are appointed by the central government, and hence both 1 and 2 are the correct option. Third, which of the following correctly defines core inflation? So if I talk about this concept of core inflation, so this is a circle in which all the items are there on which I am calculating inflation. Goods, services, that is called as headline inflation. At the core are those items which are stable, and outside of the core are two items which are highly unstable. One is food and the other is fuel. So core inflation does not entail food and fuel. The food and fuel inflation, no. The overall inflation, no. That is headline inflation. The non-food, non-fuel inflation is the correct option. Hence, none of the above is also wrong. Fourth, which of these factors have contributed to food inflation in India? The overall inflation, the headline inflation is stable. It is reducing. But the food inflation is rising in India. And there are two main factors behind it. Low crop yields, definitely this is one of the factors. Low crop yields, especially of pulses, oil seeds, they have to be imported. That is contributing in food inflation. And supply chain disruptions, these are seasonal disruptions which happen due to extreme weather events like floods or cyclones, or I would say landslides and all which happen. So these are causing disruptions, and due to which the food prices go up. So both 1 and 2 are the correct statements, and hence C is the correct option. So with this, we come to an end of today's session. I hope you are watching these videos regularly and attempting these questions. Prelims is approaching. So first of all, don't panic. Create a plan for yourself in which you have to keep one thing in mind, that is maximize revisions. जितनी ज़्यादा बार आप revisions कर सकोगे हर एक subject, that is going to help you. Keep attempting questions, keep attempting test series, and try to be accurate, more accurate. Be very much true to yourself that you don't know. If you, while attempting questions, if you don't know about anything, you should be very much true to yourself and hold your thoughts over there that I don't know, I'll have to guess in this. This approach definitely is going to help you increase your score because accuracy will increase. So with this, we come to an end. I'll be seeing you tomorrow now with more such informative news pieces. Till then, you guys very well know what to do. I'm not repeating it today. Namaste. Jai Hind. See you tomorrow.